Well, today I'm joined by six-time winning Hong Kong champion jockey Zac Purton. Thanks for joining me today, Zac.
My pleasure, Sarsha.
Now, firstly, you've just come back from holidays with the family. What was it like being back home in Australia?
It was great. We had a really nice time in Hawaii, but it was good to get back to Australia for an extended period of time. Normally I just fly in, fly out, so I'm quite busy when I'm there and I don't really get to experience what Australia has to offer, but it was really nice being home. I must admit the transportation system seems to move a lot better these days. The roads seem to be a lot clearer and more free than what they used to be, and obviously the light rail system has helped with that, and the tunnels as well. But I was really impressed with the food and beverage as well. I think the restaurants have really gone ahead since I was there before. The quality of service, the quality of food, the fit out. So it's a great place for you to live, and I'll be able to come back there sometime soon.
Well, it's been such a long time since you guys have been back living in Australia. You've been in Hong Kong for a long time. And just touching on Hong Kong, a lot of people are fascinated by Hong Kong racing as it is so different to Australia. Can you give us a little bit of an insight as to what it's like as a jockey living in Hong Kong?
Yeah, it's very cutthroat. It's the law of the jungle, really. It's either eat or be eaten. You need to be on the ball. You need to have a thick skin. Our owners, trainers, the media, the club, they all ask a lot of us. The jockeys and trainers all live in the same building on the race course, so you don't really get to escape that pressure cooker environment that you're placed in. And, results are everything here. If you're winning and doing well, then you get support. And if you're not going so well, it's very hard to get that support. So it's, every day, it doesn't matter what you've done last week or yesterday. It's about what you're going to do tomorrow or today. So you need to continually get the results, prove yourself. You never feel like you've made it. Even with all the success that I've had here, I still don't feel like I've quite made it, and I think that sums up what this place is like.
Well, just touching on your success, can we go back to the end of last season? You broke Joe Moreira's record of most wins in a season, and you actually did this with 21 less rides than him. This must be so satisfying for you.
Oh, it is for sure. It's something that I set out early in the season to be able to achieve. He obviously rode at the first two meetings of the season, then decided he wanted to leave Hong Kong. So that left a big hole, and I come out not long after that and rode the 7 winners at the one meeting, and I felt like I was going to get quite a bit of support, and without him there, I thought I could push for his record and see how I went. It would give me something to focus on and a goal to try and achieve. Without him there and without the rivalry, it sort of left a bit of an empty feeling. But having that goal for me to tune into and try and throw everything out, it kept me focused. Fortunately for me, I was able to achieve it.
So racing kicks off this Sunday. What trainers have you been riding the most for since you've been back in Hong Kong?
I'd say Danny Shum. He's been probably my biggest supporter for over the last decade, going back to when we won at Royal Ascot in 2012 with Little Bridge. So I had an association with him even before that. But for whatever reason, he put me on the bench a little bit last season. And made me work my way back into the stable towards the end of the season. But we've kissed and made up, and we're on good terms again now. So he's given me most of my support at track work and at the trials. In the early part of the season, I have 4 rides for him on Sunday. So hopefully we can get 1 or 2 winners and get off on the right foot. But outside of him, Jamie Richards is there, David Hall's there, David Hayes. If I can pick up a little bit more for Frankie Law would be good. Benno Jung's got a couple of rides for me coming up. Manfred Mann, who was a trainer of Lucky Sweynesse, Francis Loy. So sort of there's probably my support base at the moment. And then as we get into the season, John Size will come on board and start to pick up. He doesn't have many runners early in the season. That's the way that his stable always operates. So I've got to try and survive without him until he can come and kick me along a little bit better.
And you have a very high opinion of the horse Beauty Eternal. What's the plan for him this season?
Yeah, I'm not sure yet. I haven't spoken in depth to John Size about what his program is going to look like, but I can probably guess what he's going to do because he's at that rating now where the program will dictate to where he runs. So at the back end of last season, he won back-to-back Group 3 races. So he'll most probably kick off in early October. I think there's a Group 3 1400 metre race or a Group 3 mile about that time. From there, all going well, he'll progress to the international trial races in November and then hopefully take his place in the international mile in December.
Okay, and Lucky Sweyness, he obviously accomplished so much last season. Is travelling on the cards for him?
No, unfortunately not. I was hoping to get into Australia for the Everest, but due to the quarantine restrictions, he would have had to do 2 weeks, I think it was, quarantine here in Hong Kong and then another 3 weeks in Australia until he was able to come out and compete in a race. And at this stage of our season, when our horses are only early into their preparations, it was going to be really hard to get him ready for the Everest. It was doable, but it's a lot to ask of a horse to be stuck in quarantine for 5 weeks, basically on their own, and then have to do the quarantine to come back to Hong Kong to get ready for the international races in December. So it just didn't really fit into what they wanted to do. Yep. So he's going to stay in Hong Kong.
You rode California Spangle last December and beat the best horse in the world, Golden 60. Would you like to share with us what you think is the key to beating Golden 60, if you want to? Or you can keep that.
That's not really a question I can pinpoint, right? Like I have beaten him twice. I beat him on Waikuku and I beat him on California Spangle. But those times that I beat him, it was because he had a bit of a grubby run in the race. The only time you can beat him, if it's a level playing field or if he's got to do a little bit extra work, he's going to beat us every time. But the only way we can beat him is if something really goes wrong. So when I beat him on Waikuku, he got too far back in a race where it was dominated by the horses on speed. He had to make too long a run and I pinched the race. And then I did the same thing on California Spangle as well. He got into an awkward position where he had to cover a bit more ground and I was able to pinch a 4 or 5 length break on him and he just couldn't catch me. So the only thing that beats Golden 60 is bad luck.
Okay, so you're also booked for the Mar Eustace trained Light Infantry for the Cox Plate. What do you think of the horse?
Well, his form in Europe is obviously very solid. He's been running in some very good races over there. We've been to Royal Ascot, been to France. Although he's not a prolific winner, his form is very good, and those European horses that have gone down to Australia, as we know, have done very well. So I'm just banking on the fact that the European form is going to be a little bit stronger than the Australian form. And last time we seen him in Australia, he was brought down for the Golden Rose and then went back up. So this time he was going to go down to Australia and stay there, and hopefully by basing himself there, he's going to give himself some more options within the training regime set up that the Mar Eustace stable have. And, hopefully a new environment brings the best out of him.
And what are your thoughts on Romatic Warrior heading to the Cox Plate?
It's a really interesting one. Obviously, last December he was brutal in the way he put the international horses to the sword. I think the Japanese horses didn't turn up that day. They come out of a really strongly run race in Japan where the leader got away 15 lengths, and I think the horses that come out of that race and come to Hong Kong were a little bit jaded and tired. So I don't know if that was a true reflection of where he was at, but he won that race very easily. And then in more recent times in the QE2, he was in a race where they were 2 seconds outside of standard. He sat behind the leaders, was able to control the race from where he was. I rode Prognosis in that race. I should have beat him with an even tempo and a little bit more luck. But he won that race comfortably as well. 2,000 metres is probably his pet distance. He's an on-pace runner, so Moonee Valley will suit him. If he can draw well, get a nice soft run. But I'm just not quite sure if he's as good as what his record suggests. But he's obviously a very good horse, and it'll be interesting to see how he lines up down there. And obviously James is booked to ride him in both races at the moment. But he's out injured, and there might be a replacement jockey for his first run in the Turnbull.
Okay. Now, I know you don't give too much away, but have you worked any horses recently that you're excited about?
Yeah, well, there's one horse that got scratched at the last meeting of last season called Light Warrior. Mm-hmm. he had a blood abnormality, so he couldn't run. But he's only had one start. He went to the races. He shouldn't have been allowed to run that day. He trialled on the Tuesday and trialled poorly, and they still allowed him to run on the Sunday. And he went about 200 metres, and I pulled him up out of the race. So that was about probably a good year ago. So then he didn't get to race all last season until he was ready at the end of the season, and he was scratched because of the blood abnormality. So it's been a long road, a long process to get him back to the races.
Yeah.
But I trialled him earlier in the week. He trialled well. He's going to run next Sunday, I think it is, and I'm looking forward to riding him. So he's a horse that might be able to win a couple of races early in the season.
Okay. Now, while you were in Sydney, you were actually invited into the Roosters headquarters. What advice did you give to them, and what similarities do you think that you share with them in running a successful business?
Well, with any sporting organisation, and I'm not an organisation like they are, but I've still got to run my business in a similar fashion, in that you need to do your video homework, you need to make sure you're eating healthy, you're getting enough sleep, you're doing your analysis, you're on top of your fitness, all those types of things, right? So we're athletes. I'm an athlete. They're all athletes. So there are a lot of common similarities that we can do from either side of the position that we're in. And it was just about, doing your homework right, making sure you train right, having the plan, committing to it, minimising the mistakes, just keeping things simple. So I think sometimes people can overcomplicate things and worry too much about things. If you keep it simple, you know what you've got to do. And like I said, you just minimise those mistakes, and the least amount of mistakes you make, the easier things become.
You've accomplished so much throughout your career so far. Do you have a goal going into this season, or is there a particular race that you would really like to win?
Well, I'd love to win the Derby again. It's been a very frustrating race for me. It's our blue riband race. It's called Once in a Lifetime Glory for a reason. The Derby here in Hong Kong is run for 4-year-olds. So as a 4-year-old, you only get that one chance. It's not like the international race meetings where you can race year after year after year. I've won it. I'm glad I won it. But I think since then, the last 12 years since then, or maybe 10 years since then, I've run second and third nearly every year. Except for 1 year, and been beaten like a head and half a head so many times. So it's been a good race, but a frustrating race for me. So it'd be nice to win that race again. But as far as goals for the season, they're always the same. I just want to ride 100 winners for the season. I think that's a good benchmark. There have only been 3 jockeys in Hong Kong racing history to ride 100 winners or more in a season. Yeah. So that's always what I class as a good season. And anything above that is cream on top of the cake. Once again, I've got to try and defend my crown and be champion jockey again. Just try and win as many Group 1 races as I can. It's pretty simple. I always look at it the same way, but it's not as easy to complete as what people think.
And is there a race in Australia that you'd like to win?
Sure, there's a race called the Melbourne Cup that I'd love to win. I haven't had too many opportunities to win it. I've run 3rd and 4th in it the last 2 times I've been in it, so I'm slowly getting there. Unfortunately, COVID derailed things there for me, so I've missed, I think, the last 3 or 4 runnings of it, but certainly looking for a horse to try and win that race this year. I've got a couple in mind. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get on them, but I'm here. I'm on the other end of the phone, and if someone thinks that they've got that right horse, then I'd love to be on it.
Okay, so shout out, you're looking for a Melbourne Cup win this year.
Exactly.
You've heard it here first.
I'll even let you drink the champagne out of the cup afterwards.
Okay, that sounds brilliant. Well, look, thanks so much for chatting with me today, and I can't wait to see you kill it this season.
No worries, thank you.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.